Welcome back to Weebology, everybody. I am your transient and confused Professor Ricky.
What's up, y'all? I'm Ethan.
Yeah, it's been a transient week so far, and living with my brother for a couple days, maybe living somewhere else for a couple days if he's tired of me. But the water damage I talked about last week, that's the effect this week, is I can't be in my place. I went and visited. It's a fucking heat sink. It's like 90 degrees. We had to turn the AC off because we had the foolhardy idea of maybe just toughing it out. But with like 11 heaters and fans drying the entire subfloor, it's like even AC at full blast all the time can't combat the temperature rise.
It's like you need a literal nuclear power plant just to power that place.
Genuinely, yes. So living elsewhere for now, save us cash, save us energy bill, stuff like that. But I had a very, very strange incident when me and my brother tried to order food recently.
I got a few, fun. So I'm actually like a little bit hype about this.
You got a couple of these? So it was the first night. So it was Friday night. We were gonna, you know what? We haven't had Chinese in a while. We want some hot nudes, so let's get some hot nudes. So we are going to
hot nudes.
Oh, the hottest nudes, like spicy ass noodles.
I think I can see where this is gonna go wrong already. You're on the wrong website, bud.
Oh, that's what it was. That's on me. So I decide I'm gonna order for both of us. I get my bourbon chicken. He gets his hibachi chicken. We get our stuff. I get told by this particular food delivery service that the restaurant we were ordering from couldn't service that, and they just straight up canceled it. We're like, what the fuck? So Joe decides to order from the same chain at a different location with a different delivery service to try to mix everything up. And the moment that the other location takes theirs, my phone pops a notification up that says, hey, your order was delayed, but it's being made right now, coming in 40 minutes. So we have double order of this stuff coming, and we can't cancel either of them because now they're both locked in. We were told straight up that it was canceled, on mine at least. And so I ordered a large. And if you've ever ordered Chinese food larges, they're like a crate of meat. Like a crate of food.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be better off trying to feed a football team.
I think with a couple larges, you might be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's how big they are. And I had that large because I knew, like, okay, I'll have a couple leftovers, some cheap lunches, no big deal. So we have 2 larges of each order and an entire army of egg rolls coming to our place, and they got there within 2 minutes of each other.
Oh
Just
my
an
God.
onslaught of MSG riddled chicken. And it's like, was great, but that's all I've been eating for the last like 4 days.
That would like borderline piss me off, I think.
I was a little pissed. I was like, you guys told me to my face over the app and a phone call that it was canceled. So I'm like, cool. And then the place was just like, you fucking thought you're getting your your fucking
from
meal.
A different location though.
Same chain. We did different locations because we thought, okay, this place just can't handle it. It's too busy, whatever. So we want the other location for this. So
that's fucking wild.
It was like $100 worth of Chinese food.
Oh my God.
So I still have leftovers right now that I haven't
makes me feel
finished.
A little sick just thinking about that.
It's a lot, dude. It was a lot. But what do you mean you have?
Yeah, so I've got 2 unrelated stories. So one day someone rung my doorbell and I'm not expecting anybody. So I go downstairs and it's like an Uber Eats guy and I'm like, hey.
Hi.
And he's like, yeah, I got your Chick-fil-A. I'm like, I didn't order Chick-fil-A, dog.
What?
Yeah. And he goes, oh, all right. So I go back inside. I walk upstairs, whatever. I didn't leave my front door for like a few days. And I go back and it's just fucking sitting there. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Wait, he just left it there?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I mean, I never thought to like go check again.
I wouldn't either.
Because like I always leave out the other side.
Sure. So
I've like literally hadn't opened my front door and I'm like, why the fuck is there a high C sitting in my, on my like porch?
A fucking high C.
Yeah, high C. And I never opened the bag because like obviously it's been sitting there for 5 fucking days. And the name was like Marguerite or something. I'm like, do I look like a Marguerite to you, boss?
That might be what I call you now, is Marguerite.
Well, anyway, so that was annoying and wild. And then this is an even weirder story. So I Uber Eats Five Guys occasionally. That's
Sure.
probably one of the only things I really Uber Eats.
It's honestly worth Uber eating.
But I always order from the one that's like really close to us.
Yeah,
like,
I know where that is. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe a minute, 2 minutes away.
Yeah, I would say it's at most a 5-minute round trip.
And I go to try to get Five Guys. I go on through the app and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And it's like even suggests me, oh, you like Five Guys, here you go.
Sure.
So I click on it and I order. And then I go in there and I'm like, yeah, I'm here to pick up for Ethan. They're like, we don't have anything for Ethan. I'm like, what?
Wait.
Because I even got a notification, oh, it's ready. I walk in there and I'm like, I'm reading. I'm like, fucking Pelham. I'm like, why?
No.
So it's literally like a 25 minutes in the other direction. I'm like, why? I've never, ever gone to that one.
But did you like click it off a rec? Like it's like,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So you hit
so
the.
it wrecked me one that was super
Far
far away.
away.
And I'm like, why? So that actually like really messed with me because I like.
That pissed me off heavy.
I mean,
dude.
it's borderline a 25-minute drive, and it was like pretty late, I think.
Yeah.
So I had to like get in the car, and then I get there, my burger. I think actually they were nice, and they like held my stuff until I like showed up.
That's cool.
So they
That's
gave me
cool.
like flaming lava hot fries.
All right.
But
Yeah.
the burger was still like, let's just say lukewarm.
Competent.
Yeah, it was like fine.
It's like that sweaty warm and like foil kind of has been around for
But
a while.
I could not believe that they would like suggest me one literally clear across town rather than the one that's literally like
right.
5 minutes away max.
Yeah, but they wrecked it anyway because I think that they're just like looking for patronage, maybe.
But like, it's all the same company. Why wouldn't you be like, hey, the one that's right next to you?
I don't know. And those that's so weird, dude. I don't know. It's so bizarre. Speaking of bizarre,
I'm just like staring at you like, is he gonna like get there?
Oh, I got there. Today, this is hot off the presses show we're going to be talking about today. And, you know, if you haven't seen it and you're kind of looking for no spoilers, this is going to be very spoiler heavy in this episode. So immediately warning you now. But today, we're talking about one of anime's honestly greatest epics that has permeated through the community. And the second part, if that makes sense, 6-part second third has come out, actually. You looked at me like you're confused at the third part. It did not finish, by the way, in the second half.
Right.
So I think it's the second third. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the math was getting a little fucked for me.
Yeah, so
I've been referring to it as JoJo's Part 6, Part 2.
Yes, so we're talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6, Stone Ocean Part 2. How's that for a fucking mouthful? We got parts on parts in this series. But I actually was looking very much forward to this because we had a Part 6, Part 1 episode a way while back. I'm talking like 10 months back. And that came hot off the presses too. And one of the things I had said is we're going to have to see more of this to be assertive on our scores. And I think in the content that we got here, my score then was validated. And I would think I'm going to start, I'm going to score and change the score for this part as I get more subsections. So first impressions, I mean, what do you think of this part? Is this something that you vibed with, you didn't vibe with? How did you walk away from it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the way I want to frame my perspective on this, I guess, episode in general is like, how much more of this can we do the same thing and not really change up like the formula?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess my real question is like, are people still into this because it's a meme or because they are like genuinely enjoying it? Because for me, it was like, it was pretty much a slog to get through. And I guess I kind of wonder like the monster of the week, which it really is. It's like stand of the week.
That is what that is.
Literally every fucking episode, there's a new stand, there's a new bad guy in their way. And it's just like, I mean, at some point, Araki, my guy, let's get a story going. I don't know.
There are a couple elements, I think, in this part after seeing part 2 on Netflix, which is where you can go watch it. An element here is I think he is learning and evolving in a couple really interesting ways, but they are subtle. I think he understands that his formula does in fact work with the larger anime community, and people are sucking this stuff down. And what I had talked about, we way back in the day when Pat Bott was in the show, we were doing the other parts of JoJo, right?
Right.
And I had brought up the analogy that watching the show feels like you're eating a really rich red velvet cake, where if you have a piece, it tastes awesome. It's great. It's an enjoyable experience. But if you were to sit there and be told, eat that whole fucking cake right now, you start to get a little bit like bored of something so decadent and rich. And I feel like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that show. Bingeability here, I think, is quite hard. I mean, I binged it like straight. And at the end, I even told my brother, like, man, my brain is cooked right now. Like trying to binge all 4 hours total of JoJo's. Is that something you've ever been able to do? Is that something you think I'm off base and you can binge it? Or are you more just bored of the formula overall?
Personally, I'm extremely bored of the formula, but I think I binged part 2, part 3 significantly easier. Even part 4 or 5, like pretty easy, I felt compared to this. This almost feels like, because it's such a small sort of setting and scenario, it's like you walk in the next room and you're in another freaking battle, rather than like, all right, we've moved from Egypt to, I don't know, Kuwait or wherever the fuck.
Sure.
Oh no, another stand user like hiding amongst the rabble. It's like literally every room they enter, there's another bad guy they have to deal with. And it's almost like they took like that sort of that end section of part 3 that was like battle after battle after battle, and they're like, what if we did it all in the same room? You know what I mean?
That's 100% correct in my mind. But to me, though, that might be where we start to deviate, is I feel that JoJo is at its best when natural circumstances both justify the depravity of the villain. If you're going to do Monster of the Week, you have to make each individual case, each individual monster, so to speak, actually interesting in their own right. And I think a small, enclosed setting lends better to JoJo in my mind than maybe a long-winded, broad adventure. But how also that being set in a jail, every adversity, every monster each week, so to speak, is justified in their depravity because they're like in the highest security prison. It's meant to look like an Alcatraz kind of thing. Like, so I really like the setting and the pacing for this, but I get what you're saying though, where it's like, it's so much every single bit. Like, I can only really take this 2-3 episode chunks at a time before I need to get like a break.
Like a week break in between.
Right. We did not have the luxury for that in this case, but at the same time, I totally resonate with what you're saying, because I need to just put this down for a moment. There's nothing quiet. There's nothing peaceful about JoJo. It's all high octane all the time in a way that's like, it can be a lot for some people, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm trying to like equate it to like really any other type of like media, even like I almost just want Iraqi to like maybe chill on the spaz on the page kind of scenario and like actually try to put a story together. Because like if you really think about it, like the story beats for this entire season so far is really like 3 important things, and then everything else in between is just like let's put another, you know, really weirdly dressed prisoner with some crazy power. Like, while I of course respect his ability to come up with like all these random stands with all these different powers and stuff like that, it just feels like it's sort of like taking away from his, you know, maybe the effort he could have been putting into like a long arching story. Like, I don't know about you, but I felt like the Dio's bone thing just came out of nowhere.
There's a lot to unpack there, but to that initial point, yes, the Dio's bone thing was rather odd, and it came kind of just as a random thing out of nowhere.
Like randomly in episode like 16 or 17, you're just like, what the I mean,
they
like,
do eventually will go on to explain as to why all of this, and I have some theories about that. But to your other point of putting a story together, I'd actually argue that part 1 to now is the same damn story. Like, he's putting a massive story together. Are we getting lost in the forest for the trees? Right?
I just think that the story sucks.
Really?
If you have a character that is literally like, you cannot kill him and he just keeps coming back to fuck with you and your family members, like, it's not a good story.
I think it is, because it's like, we aren't seeing the protagonist in a single entity. The family, the Joestar family, is the protagonist versus Dio. I like the fact that there is a single villainous entity that is spanning generations, yet every so often the generations of the Joestar family have to deal with this shit. And I like that a lot, because it is persisting a multi-generational story where one side has the generations and the other side is just persisting and just like a cockroach that just won't leave. And this season is proving his resilience, which is awesome.
I think it's possible to make it good. I just don't know if I'm a fan of the actual way that Araki has tried to make the story work.
Fair. Maybe he tried to bite off more than he can chew, and he's kind of just too deep in the game right now. Is that what's going on?
I just feel like it's a very difficult, honestly, literary goal here to create a enemy that persists through time, and you have generational people fighting back from one family. I think you honestly need to be a good writer and really nuanced. And the problem is he does not have nuance. He has just absolute balls to the walls, visuals. He has cool references. I genuinely am wondering, is it the meme? Is Araki doing this as a meme and to get to design cute clothes?
I think the second thing for sure.
Yeah.
The second thing, Araki's
and to kill dogs.
And to kill dogs. Araki is always not the dog thing, but you are fucking right. He's always been a fan of high fashion and weird fashion, and he just probably uses this as an excuse to just absolutely rip up some designs. But I think we need to break this down in a way, because I'm going to give a very, very, very light synopsis of what's going on in the season and where we start here, spoiler-ish free. And then I want to hit what's probably good or bad with this, because it seems that we are quite divisive on this topic.
It's kind of weird. I feel like now that I've seen the part 2 that I liked part 1 way more.
Really, I think I saw part 2 being what I needed to actually like part 1 as much as I did. I gave it a score probably higher than it deserved back then. And after seeing part 2, now I see the through line. I'm like, okay, now I'm seeing things cooking. I got gripes. I got notes, my dude. But where we start is basically Jolene, as we saw in part 1, is in Green Dolphin Penitentiary, and she's in basically high security prison. And their goal there is to basically, it was of Jotaro, her father, to catch one of Dio's, I guess, henchmen or someone that led him there, right? Because he was there originally. But her entire mission is to retrieve the memories of her father, Jotaro, because in those memories are some shit that Dio needs for some kind of ultra massive plot. And in this second part, we kind of get that plot a lot more fleshed out, and we kind of are seeing the inroads into the final part, because this did not finish it, guys. This is I think the second part in a 3-part trilogy for this season, but it laid down a lot more that actually helped me out a lot. I don't know. I
think it did answer the question we had, is this going to be just 24? That's so weird for them, Right. I think it's very clearly not going to just be 24.
Absolutely not that. But we definitely, we hit endgame stride by the end. Definitely by the very end. The plan's been laid out. The disciples of Dio have basically enacted a plan, and we're seeing kind of the end game start to play out. So I'm really hyped for it. And I think to start off with what was, I guess, good for me, the stand creativity was absolutely top notch here. I think there are some really amazing standout stands. That'll take my funniest guy ever award, please.
I think you might be waiting for that one for a while.
Yeah, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks for shipping. At least when I ordered it off Amazon.
It's coming from China.
It's coming from Alibaba. It's cool. But yes, the stand creativity was insane. I mean, there was some that really were, I think, more heady than in past seasons. One of them was completely abstract as fuck. Another one was pretty abstract, but also very strange. What would you say would be like your favorite stand in kind of this chunk?
So I watched it in dub, so the names are kind of fucked. Whatever the zombie one was.
Sports Max.
Sports Maximum.
Sports Maximum was the sub for me.
Yeah, that's what they called him. What was
his ability?
What was his name supposed to be?
I can't remember. These stand names, they're all either bands or song names because Rocky has kind of this love for like 70s to 90s rock and bands like that. So they're all different names. I can probably look it up while
there's that,
chatting.
But there's also like at some point he just switches entirely into like designers. He did D&G, which I assumed he started was Dolce & Gabbana.
Yeah, he starts going into designers, which is
and then
great.
The stand was like Yo-Yo Ma, which I thought was so funny.
Yo-Yo Ma? Yeah.
Yo-Yo Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma. So yeah, his was the ability to, I think the condition for his was he basically, not him die. He did die. But for basically him to touch the corpse of anything, and he has the ability then to quote unquote resuscitate their ghost or bring the dead back to this world as invisible, instinctual, primal feeding machines. Essentially, they just become rampant zombies.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I want to like, I guess, walk back what I said. I liked it and didn't like it at the same time. I don't like characters that are like immortal. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly,
this is like kind of like fucking stupid. It's
his was Limp Bizkit.
That's right,
Limp Bizkit, yes.
Which they called him Limp Viscot or something like that.
Vimp Lisket or something like that.
It's like Viscit, I want to say.
I think it's like Vimp Viscit or whatever, but it doesn't matter.
Right. But I don't know, like characters like that I think are just like bad for stories because like you have to win in like a wild, stupid way, like to be a like quote unquote immortal character. And that's kind of like how I feel like the unfortunate like Dio throughout the years, you have to win in like a dumb shit way or else like he's immortal. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And the resilience of those characters seem to be problematic. Unless you want them to be,
it doesn't drag on you to just have to be fighting the same guy over and over through every episode.
Well,
like for Poochie to be like the bad guy through like this entire season has been like, Jesus Christ, would you just get to this guy already?
That's the one thing that if I were to bring up my first gripe amongst the sea of good is that the translation or the telegraphing of the main baddie in this part or in general was kind of subpar here. I think in past, like Kira, like in part, I want to say 4. Was one of the most fun reveals for like a main baddie. He was just like quietly sadistic and sociopathic and psychopathic and like, but him always being there, it wasn't a matter of like trying to find out who he was as an audience member. It was the audience watching him be uber careful to mind game around, you know, Josuke and the boys like out there.
But it was almost like he was doing his own thing and they just like happened to brush up against him.
Right. It's complete circumstance.
Right. Where like Poochie is directly like antagonizing our main characters in this series.
And it lost a little bit of the edge of dropping the villain. Right.
But that's where like I feel like the part 1 of this was actually kind of interesting because it was like, ooh, let's figure out who's the bad guy. And then am I wrong? Like, did we not know that Poochie was the bad guy by the end of it? Like our cast?
Oh, we should have known. Oh, so the cast knowing by the end of part 1 that he is?
Yeah.
No. They only found out when Foo Fighters basically was in the truck. Right. Trying to kill the one stand user, D&G, basically. And that was when she noticed Father Poochie was kind of just like in the mix of all this and like, wait a fucking minute. And then he kind of played his hand a little too early and was just like, haha, you're right. It is me, Dio Light. Let's go.
It's a me.
It's a me.
Puccia.
But that's him, right? And I don't know. It's just, I think that was one of my gripes, is that it lost a little bit of its edge. And that's something that JoJo's always prided itself on, is that really dropping these "you thought, but fuck you" trap card energy. And there were definitely moments of that in this part, and even just the sub part, but we didn't get that with the main villain, in my opinion. Like, it felt like a real whimpering, like a whimpery entry. No, there's
I think I'm worried, like, is the real villain going to just be Dio again?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I think that's what's going on.
So you have 2/3 of a season with no real bad guy, and then bad guy just shows up at the end.
That's what I'm saying, right? Is that I think this has always been basically forces of Dio from day one. Like, there all have been some finger that Dio has in some pot somewhere, and that's the like, from a broader perspective of all the parts the anime community has seen, I think I think the through line's been really fun and great to see that, but we are evaluating one singular part, and I feel like the villain situation here is a bit of a whimper. It's just not there where we've seen it in the past for sure. But the stand usage and creativity, I think this might be one of my favorites since 3 that has like some of the most creative stands I've ever seen.
So what was your favorite one?
It would have to be, I really enjoyed the idea of basically Jailhouse Rock is one later where if the user touches a surface that Jailhouse Rock is basically inside of or touching itself, that person, that victim, will only be able to remember the last 3 pieces of information. Period. That's haunting. And to her point, the user, Mew Mew, she was like, it's even worse than not remember anything at all, because you're in this constant cycle of what the fuck was I doing?
Right.
And you only get the last 3 pieces of information. One new one comes in, the oldest one goes out. And you just have this rolling queue of the last 3 things. And that's it. And to the point where, if you remember, 4 guards are coming down the hall or 4 bullets have been shot at you, in the moment, you'll only sense 3 because you've already forgotten about the other one.
Yeah.
What a fucking mind trip that is.
What is that? Like item permanence or something?
Yeah, object permanence, essentially. Yeah. Like, it goes to that level. And that's terrifying to me. I'm trying to think. The other one that they did, Yo-Yo Ma was pretty good, but Dragon's Dream was weird.
Yeah.
Dragon's Dream is a stand where the user, it talks back to you, which I think opens up an incredible avenue of like sentient partnership stands rather than an extension of self stands, where Dragon's Dream basically mouthed off to its user. Just calling old
like
geezer
there has been, like, that's feels like it's been seeded before.
Has it really?
It feels like it.
It probably has at some point where it felt more partnership-y than really anything else.
Well, I mean, we've seen like 40 million fucking stands by now.
We've seen a lot of stands by now. Yeah.
I don't know how you're not a little bit tired of it.
I was getting to it. I was getting to that. I am not tired of it because of the couple subversions that are being done here. The formula, and the thing is that, one, Dragon's Dream is basically a stand that will calculate the best point of entry for an attack or defensive position for a strategy, like a safety strategy, when you're facing somebody. And it's the concept of feng shui, where, entry, best point of attack, best point of defense. That
really
they
just
all have
good
lines.
luck, bad luck type shit.
It's a luck-based
which
stand, which is wild, because they really like Domino from Deadpool level shit.
Right, but I feel like that's getting a little bit overblown too.
It's a little. Okay, what do you mean by overblown?
Like, a lot of people are using that as like a kind of a power in shows.
Is it? Do you feel like it's an oversaturation because what we had before is basically nothing, or is it truly oversaturating? Because I can only think of maybe 3 examples, 4 maybe.
Kite sort of is like that.
Kind of, but he's at the mercy of his luck, not using it to his advantage.
Okay.
That's the
Wow, that's such a fucking.
That is a huge
that's world.
difference. That's a huge difference.
Shattering.
It is. It's a huge difference. What do you mean? Like being okay.
What about the guy from Bleach? One of the Fullbringer dudes.
The jackpot fist.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I had where basically he'll punch, and the longer he's gone without a jackpot, the more likely he'll have a jackpot, and things will just like happen. He'll fucking just like light punch, knock trees down, blow off a jaw of a captain level Shinigami. Like he can make that work. So like that's luck to your advantage versus I'm gonna roll 1 through 6, and I'm gonna get a weapon based on that number, and then that's it. I have to deal with that. That's the key difference between luck dependent and luck advantage power systems. And this right here is luck advantage because he literally gets to see the luck. Like I have to attack from 220 degrees northwest, and once he does, like a cascade of like coincidences will happen, and it'll be the best outcome for the attacker. These stands are getting wild, I would say, more abstract, ethereal. But to your question, am I not getting burnt out a bit by this? And I would say a little every time I go into a JoJo season or part, but they seem to do enough to keep things marginally fresh each time and like keep incremented slowly on the formula. That's where I'm at with that. Oh, you're gonna have to contrarian lounge right now. All right, hit me with it.
It's just I don't know. I guess like I'm looking for another shift from like a hum-on to stand. It's just like it feels like how many seasons are we going to see stands and like
probably the rest of them.
I mean, is it even like fun for him anymore to come up with this shit? Like I'm bored watching it. How can he not be bored making like just more wild shit? Do you know what I mean?
I do, but he seems to have a knack for it, and it's kind of his skill set. Right? I mean, that's like literally his bread and butter has been these interesting psychic-centric mind battles between users and their absolutely oblong abilities. Like this, it's very, very fringe and weird. But I've heard you in the past, Mr. Well, you've said that you like a varied power system with a lot of different effects and powers. Where is JoJo not meeting you there?
Because there's like zero established, like there's no established mean, let's just say. Like they're just all over the place. And I think the worst part is like you have to just beat your head against these bad guys to get anywhere. Like the progress is entirely determined based on like how you do versus all these random fucking things. But like honestly, if you really, really think about it, like the main cast of any of these seasons should die instantly just because of how ridiculous these like stands are getting to where it's like there's no fucking way you would figure that shit out.
And that's part of it too.
Like zombie guy was invisible and had like a cast of invisible corpses that was somehow just like walking through their defenses. And it's just like they lose. Like I'm sorry.
We literally saw an invisible dead bird corpse peck out a jugular of one of the core characters out of her neck. And to your point,
and I'm sorry, is she alive?
Yes, very much so.
Weird.
Yeah, very much so.
That's kind of what I'm saying is a problem.
That is a bit of a gripe, is that it against all like that might be part of maybe where I'm getting tired of it, is that I already know, like even by part 3, I know Jotaro's pulling through. I know Josuke's pulling through. I know Jonor's pulling through. I know Jolene's going to pull through, because nothing new under the sun there is that if you are really going, to your point, when you say a little bit with My Hero Academia, we got to start killing some of these fucking kids off. Like that kind of is, that actually adds stakes. Like make it actually seem like my core cast could die. And lately, the couple seasons, the characters that have died, part 5, I actually kind of felt. I guess I felt a bit for part 6, but it still didn't make me think that they're actually truly in danger, if that makes sense. Yeah,
I mean, it's a little bit like the Dragon Ball Z paradox, right? You've got these characters that are supposedly getting infinitely stronger versus enemies who are infinitely stronger, but it like still for some reason feels like they're safe no matter what, you know what I mean? and that's
Well, they
kind
have
of
like four ways, a menu of options to come back to life, essentially.
right.
Or to
But
be good.
I mean, like maybe there's. Here's the other thing: why the fuck can't our main cast use any of these BS ways to resurrect?
I think it's because
Dio can use.
Dio's vampiric. I think that's
I
why.
know, just like it feels like I'd be like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna become a vampire then, bitch.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't you just become a vampire? That's actually genuinely kind of an interesting thought. Why wouldn't you just become a vampire if Dio's that strong?
Here's something that I wanted to bring up as like a possible, I guess, pivot to the series that I would really like.
Sure.
Because I think it would actually play to his strengths immensely. So, episode, I want to say it was 13. That was the first one.
The first one of the second part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was actually like really grotesque and disgusting with the zombie guy. Like there was bugs everywhere. There was all this like kind of like horror type element.
I was going to bring that up too.
Why doesn't he just like make a horror season instead? Because he likes these like really abhorrent, grotesque, like frankly like visceral visuals in his show.
Honestly,
I think he would pop the fuck off if he did a horror season.
I was going to bring that up because I feel more so than most the lean into the body horror that you might see in something like a Baki or maybe a ReZero it worked so well here. It was, the visuals are visceral. Netflix doesn't really, they basically don't censor anything. And it really led to a uniqueness from a visual standpoint for this part amongst even others. And like there's literally one where a guy gets twisted up. It's like Junji Ito shit.
Right.
Twisted up so much into like a bucket and he just can't get out now because his bones and muscles have been rearranged as a spring-like configuration. So he's literally, all his bones and muscles are all broken in a pile in this dude's body. And he springs himself into a bucket, can't get out, and he's just left to basically starve. Like, holy fuck.
Well, like even what happened with the guy I was just talking about, Sports Maximum.
Oh yeah, Sports Maximum.
Like being trapped in a pipe and drowning is
in
like
sewage water.
Is like pretty much, I think, probably a pretty solid fear that people have.
That's the Augustus Gloop way to go. From Willy Wonka. That's how.
Well, he would just eat all the chocolate.
Damn, this
he
ain't
can't
chocolate,
drown.
Though. He can't drown. He can only become stronger.
He'll become the Gloop monster.
Yep. But to your point, I actually found that to be a highlight of the series. Why doesn't he make a horror season? This might be the closest we're gonna get. This felt pretty horror at times, more so than others in the past have. Others have felt thrilling. This one felt like fucking horror. And maybe this is something I thought of too. This might be a really good thing about streaming jails, is because if we were to get this on a Crunchyroll or a Verve or something like that, I don't think we'd be able to see the uncensored version. If that's something that people do or don't care about, is up for y'all interpretation. But I've seen earlier parts of JoJo on like Crunchyroll and like Verve and stuff. Always censored pretty heavily. Netflix didn't pull any punches, and it definitely elevated kind of like the true realization of the horrors and the damage that these stands can cause in their wake. I found that to be interesting.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, are you sure they were actually censored?
No, I'm sure they were uncensored.
No, I mean like the other ones that you've seen.
Yes, because they
like
do
what
like
specifically?
Very famous one. I would say I want to say it's in part 4. There's a rat that can cube people.
Yeah.
And when I watched it on Crunchyroll, it was basically like a black fade over it, and you can't actually see it. Oh. This, however, no fade, no nothing. If you want to see a body coiled into a spring,
because I thought like Iggy had like a really disturbing way of going.
And he might have, but I don't remember seeing it because I think it was censored. Maybe, and some of the stuff maybe wasn't. That's what I'm saying, right? Is that there is some censorship. I guess
I'm still, back to our censorship episode.
Yeah, right.
I'm still baffled that people are like censoring like horror type aspects or like gore. It's just pretty weird to me.
That's an American way of thinking, I think. We just don't censor gore for shit.
I think it's totally fine, I guess, in some regards to censor some of the sex stuff, but like,
sure.
it's not realistic to be like, well, somebody saw someone turn a guy's body into a spring, so they're gonna do that, you know?
They literally can't. Oh, so you think that the matter of censorship in these cases is to prevent emulation?
I don't
Of
know
that behavior.
Who the fuck knows why they do what they do, but I would guess that's like they're like, it's probably like the Columbine thing, like, oh, they listen to metal music, so that's why they shut up.
They played video games.
Yeah. They played or what was it at that time? Probably like Medal of Honor Pacific or something.
At that time, I think it was called like the OG Grand Theft Auto, like GTA 1 or 2.
Which like nobody these days could watch that and be like, yeah, I know what happened in that game.
But yeah, the long tangent short, that this season, if you can only really watch it on Netflix or you want to sail high seas, sure, but it does not pull punches visually. It doesn't obscure anything, and I think that really lands to the true effect of not just Iraqi's visual storytelling, but also the impact that these stands have on both other stand users and pedestrians. So,
would you be down for a Iraqi-sponsored horror season?
yes, the man understands kind of, and it's not just gore
imagine
either.
if it was in like Salem or something.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't just understand horrors of like the body or like physical slasher horror. He understands some real existential threat bullshit. Like the whole thing with only remember 3 memories is literally a prison of your own mind. And there were others that were doing shit that like I just did not see coming. And I'm trying to think of the other one that's really, really good. It was the one right before that. Yes, it was Yayama, I believe. Right?
I believe so.
Yes.
But you haven't said anything yet, so it's hard for me to...
Yes, the little green guy who basically
would...
would...
Green Baby.
Green Baby.
I want to say.
So before that was the green guy that was piloting them. It was D&G's stand that...
Oh, that's Yo-Yo Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma, yeah.
Well, little green guy. There was a stand literally called Green Baby, so...
Yes, fair. Yeah. Oh, that's totally fair. Literally called Green Baby. That stand is super, super kind to you and then will slowly attack you with its saliva.
Yeah, the acidic spit shit.
And it's so acidic, it'll literally just like pass through you. But it gets like real close to you, real unassuming, and attacks when you aren't looking as a trigger. It's fully automated. But Green Baby is also existentially weird because
it's just like the Sour Patch Kids. First they're naughty, and then they're nice.
And then they're gone. Yeah, yes, because it was a very kind baby there for a moment. But
the reverse Sour Patch Kids.
First they're naughty, then they're nice, and then they're absorbed into a dude, I guess. I don't know, into a priest, I guess.
That was Green Baby.
Yeah, it was Green Baby. I know, I'm talking about Green Baby now.
Okay.
Green Baby had the stand where basically the closer you get to the baby itself, the shorter and smaller you get into infinity. And Jolene had the bright idea to jump at it from the sky. So she had no choice but to keep getting closer. So it's it's an old Greek like philosophy like kind of excerpt or something, is that like in a race you can only go to halfway, and then you go halfway of the remaining distance, and then halfway the remaining distance, so on and so forth. And you never win the race. You never cross the finish line. You are infinitely looping in smaller and smaller distances. The baby's doing the same thing, but with size, which is awesome. You get infinitely smaller and never reach the baby. What a fucking wild concept.
Yeah.
And that is horror. That's like some Ant-Man shit.
I mean, they could have figured out like, the secret of the universe, though, like get down into one of those, Adam's quids or whatever they call them.
They do not have that kind of wrinkles, my guy.
Yeah.
They should have, though. They're like, what if we just let's just go into the quantum realm.
Fuck it, let's find out.
Dude, you guys want to like go to the quantum realm today? Like, dude, yes. Like, obviously, I've been wanting to go for so long. Is that the one next to the Taco Bell? Yeah. Quantum Realm, Taco Bell.
Sponsored.
Quantum Realm sponsored by Baja Blast and Taco Bell. Nothing quenches a nice little trip to the Quantum Realm like a Baja Blast and a beefy 5. But yeah, so stands, absolutely love them here. David Production did a good job on the visuals, I'd say. But they do this thing where it's basically stop motion graphics and then it's Sakuga every once in a while. So they have budget to spare. But they keep it true to Araki's form and visuals. So I am very happy with the visuals of this.
Yeah, I think music still pops off.
Pops hard.
I think overall, I still like the prison kind of aesthetic, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the direction I guess he went.
Okay.
I still would have been way more interesting than just like a full series of a prison break would have been more interesting to me.
Yeah, and I honestly, again, this might be kind of similar to our part one.
Just quickly, and Hermes getting thrown in prison just to get revenge, I was just like, fuck off.
I was going to bring up that up as my main major gripe, but to what we said in part one is that we needed the second part of this part 6 to actually give us, okay, this is verifying or justifying the direction we'd like it to go. I think this final chunk is going to be that for you. Like you wanted an actual prison break. I think we're going to get there. But my major gripe with this is the supporting cast around this part's JoJo is just real weak shit, guys. Like it's not. I wanted more out of him. I felt a bit for FF a little bit. I liked her character of exploring what it means to be intelligent and sentient, and her conclusion of making memories and having mental persistence is a big reason for that.
Wow, don't care about her.
Okay, but that was the only one I think I gave a shit about.
I didn't care about Emporio, whatever.
Weather Report was a plot device, which pissed me off heavy. I was talking to Patbot, and he's like, dude, I literally forgot his name. Because he'd one of the coolest fucking stands. He's literally Storm for X-Men.
He'd be fucking alpha level, bro.
He'd be Omega level.
Omega.
He could be a fucking Omega level. And he just isn't. Because he's not in it. He just
Anastasia, I thought, boring.
Kind of, his one trick was funny for exactly 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I was done with it. Like, I was like, oh.
Who else sucks?
I didn't hate Hermes's, like, they gave her backstory, but throwing yourself in prison for 5 years to avenge your sister,
it's just like ridiculous. Why don't you just wait for the guy to come out of prison? Because he was only in there for tax fraud, and he would be out in literally 5, I think.
Easy done.
So like, I gotta question her like sanity.
That's the thing, right?
Also, like, I mean, maybe it's just like something that they know in the world, but how are you possibly just like expecting to be able to get into the men's ward? Yeah, well, we do see that they are, and then, cops are cool with being paid off and shit. There's so many fucking bodies now in this stupid prison. Like, how is like, I don't know.
Oh, the disciplinary ward battle was.
How's the governor not like, hey, so
how did you drop 30% of all prisoners yesterday?
Like, what the fuck happened?
So yeah, there's a lot of things that are definitely just glossed over. Is my other gripe is that
it's just like stuff you have to, like, you literally have to suspend your disbelief.
Which like they're not just asking, they're forcing.
Yeah, which is like okay, and like sometimes that is a fine plot, like I guess device.
Yeah,
but like in this case, it's just like, okay, there's been so many deaths. Like how, like, is the warden a bad guy? Like we don't really know. I don't think
we really genuinely don't know. But he pops up like twice in the first part of this part 6, and then never again in part 2.
Yeah, like
ever.
Okay.
Like, so yeah, he seemed to be important off the rip. And that, like I said, the other gripe is that you just have to be okay with going. It's like, I don't know. The analogy here is like, it's almost like Araki is like Apple in a way. Like, this is the way we do things. It's pretty good, and the majority of the community loves it. But this is how it's going to get done. So deal with it, or just don't watch. Don't partake in this. And that could be fine. That can be fine. And I think for the most part, the community does love the Araki formula for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I think part 6, he's learning. The one thing I will say in the disciplinary ward, the common trope that you just have a sea of normal ass people, and some guy comes out of nowhere with the most fucked up, ridiculous outfit of all time, and you're like, that's the stand user.
Yeah,
I know exactly that's it. He did a little bit of subverting here where the disciplinary ward Jolene was sent to because basically 4 other stand users were sent there because our main baddie wanted to just off her there. And it made a lot of sense, actually. When all the doors came open, there was like 8 or 9 people that came out with really unique designs, and only 3 of them, 4 technically, that, came out as stand users. The other 4 were just fodder. He subverted our expectation to keep us in the dark as much as Jolene about who's the stand users by using that own trope against us. He literally designed a bunch of characters that could look like stand users because he knows the trope that he has set up. I do think he's evolving and subverting.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way.
You can,
but
I will.
I think potentially you're reading into it a tiny bit. Like, I think he just literally likes drawing characters that are fucking off the wall wild. And he happened to have a very small, like, group of people. And he's like, you know what?
But, like, he wasn't already designing more or less stand users than any other. If any or anything, he probably designed more for this part.
Well, like,
the fact
I'll
he
give you
threw
an example.
extra,
Early on, there's that, I guess, I don't know how else to say this, but the whore.
The whore. Yeah,
she was like, had like a interesting color on, and like she was like a little bit out there.
Not like stand user level. There were people just like random pieces. To your point, that's probably his original motive. Like, yes, I want to draw more fashionable characters with like weird ass fashion. But I think it would be remiss to say that, like, you know, he did it solely for that. There wasn't any kind of visual decision there.
Yeah.
That's all.
I just don't want to like give him too much credit because I think
your voice is so salty with the Rocky.
I genuinely think his story is like really dragging. Like, figure out what to do with it and go for it. We're getting the same story every season, just like changed a tiny bit. Last time it was the fucking arrow. Now it's this fucking bone. All of a sudden,
because it's literally changing over 100+ years. Like,
but it's not changing. That's the problem.
Because it's the same fucking story.
But
it's the same story.
It's just not good enough.
Okay.
I think I
hear you. I hear what you're saying.
I'm cutting out the bullshit.
It's just not good for you. It's good for me. I'm cool with it. I like seeing it because I like to see, you know, who is the next. And you always see how Rocky just makes the old one irrelevant. He did that with JoJo now.
It's just bad plot. I don't know, man.
Okay, fine. Put your money where your mouth is. Out of a hundo. Part 6 thus far with the first 2 parts that we have.
So I would probably bump the first part, like part 1, whatever the fuck. Part 6, part 1.
Sure.
And knowing what I know now.
Okay.
Because I actually think it was better than this part.
Okay.
I would probably give this like 68. It was just like boring. I was bored. Dude. I'm so tired of the Monster of the Week, like stand user bullshit.
I was going to give this one like a 79. Like,
it's basically the same score.
I wouldn't say so.
What did I say?
You said 68.
Yeah, let's make it a 69.
nice, dude. Fucking nice, dude. Yeah, see that Saint? Get it on the books. Write it down. But I was going to say, I would say it could very well be a solid 80 for me. I think that's less than what I gave part 1. I liked kind of in your mode that I knew part 1 was going to just get better once in hindsight, once I had more info. That's how hindsight fucking works. But this part, there's a lot that I liked. The stand usage was great. The visuals were on point. Thank you for David Production for actually doing it and didn't do a One Punch Man season 2. And I'm just bitching out because I know it's not. It's a high horse or a hill I'm dying on, and I shouldn't. But yeah, there were some elements I really liked. I liked the confined jail space usage, like the disciplinary ward kind of battle royale scenario was quite an interesting use of the space and the location to make a lot of stand users confront each other all at once. And you had that high octane stuff, which my shonen schmuck brain, the smooth part of my brain, definitely lights up at that. So, you know, is it perfect? No. I think this is a very weak supporting cast. But I like Jolene as a JoJo. Honestly, she's up there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have problems with her, to be honest.
She just feels like she's in a vacuum trying to carry the whole damn thing by herself.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah,
and I will say, like her stand is strong, but feels not as like world breaking as the last two. The last three.
Yeah, right. But we now have Requiem concepts. We have stand upgrades. Hell, even Dio was like, I want to find what lies beyond a stand. And I think Giorno, being Dio's kid, and his evolution has shown that there may be something, to your point, we need to get stands out of here. But maybe there's something beyond it. There's something different. I think there's going to be like a merging of stand power and the user themselves, and they're just going to have their own power. There's no like extension of it. It's just them, because Hammond's basically, that's where it all kind of started.
But then how are you going to like make crazy poses while you're fighting?
Damn, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it's clear you didn't think about
honestly,
it.
That's on me. They, of course, stands. No, you're going to get 2 stands now. So you have a whole squad of just...
Oh, now we're talking.
A whole squad of just people just fucking posing,
Yeah, all these Egyptian looking... pew, pew, pew.
Yes. Back-breaking positions. But all in all, I think it's a great binge. I mean, if you like JoJo, you're in for it. Like, it's gonna be what you want. But I think it does beg a question, is after 6 parts...
Is this long for the world?
Is it long for this world? From the manga standpoint, no, because there's only 9 parts, right?
Holy fuck, I did not know there was 9.
There's 9 parts.
I knew there was Steel Ball Run at some point.
Yeah. So basically, is this thing that Araki has made, it's persisted since like the 80s, I think, or the 90s, something like that. Is that product still viable for a mainstream 2022 anime audience? And that is an interesting thing that
my caveat would be, or addendum would be, outside of the meme.
Outside of the meme, right. Can it, without having the internet's eyes glued to it via meme,
right?
Meme recognition, because everyone, is that a motherfucking JoJo's reference?
Right.
Like, everyone says it even if they won't watch anime. Or is that enough? Is that enough for a show to be relevant and just remain the meme?
I think it probably is enough. But
yeah, right. But is this not what we want?
For relevance,
right.
It does not work for me.
For us. If you want to discuss this with us, you can jump into our Discord, patreon.com/weebology. $1 up gets you into that Discord with all of the past guests and the lovely Patreon folk, where we can talk about stuff like this. Is JoJo still viable? Does that formula feel one trick, or is it evolving enough and quick enough for you? If you want to listen to anything else we've done, you are in the platform, my guys. Just pop over and hit any of the backlog. All of the links to where we post all of our stuff are in the description of anywhere you get your podcast fix. We literally give you every option to find us everywhere because we like you that much. Don't let Ethan tell you otherwise. We like you that much.
I wouldn't say anything against you.
Don't listen to him. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe anywhere you do that thing. And on Patreon, $3 and up get you the syllabus sidebar, the lo-fi, high vibe, sometimes anime, sometimes not, sometimes on hiatus, and sometimes visual show, where we talk about life and things and stuff that may not make this show. But our intro, if you liked our intro about us talking about our food ordering snafus, then you're going to love the syllabus sidebar.
Yeah, it's more like that.
It's literally that. So we give you a little sneak peek for all y'all at home. I think that's it, unless you got anything else I should plug.
I think we're ready to rock. Thank you guys for watching and listening at home.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to go home and watch some good old football.
I thought you had a draft.
Yes, I'm going to watch football during the draft.
Oh,
because I'm a multitasking god.
You're a monster.
Yeah, but until I can basically do every task all at once at the same time, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology.
Deuces.
That is what's happening. We're going to watch something and then I have to do the draft at the same time.
Yes.
Yes.